speaker and I did our master's program here at the University of Delaware together, commiserated over assignments and classes and where to go where. But she's a very persistent person and has counted on the faith community in which she was involved for her ministry. LaVaida White is a parish nurse at Christ Our King Parish. She's done this since 1993, assists families and individuals to promote health and prevent illness through access of care. As an advocate and educator, she is effectively able to work within the community and the state to address the lack of health services by participating on many boards and health ministries. She's retired from Christiana Care Health System since 2010, where she was employed for 20 years in med-surg, rehabilitation, visiting, and community health and educator areas. Lots of experience. Her community work is extensive with a focus on health, advisory boards to Governor Markell, Mayor James Baker, NAACP, Delaware Ecumenical Council on Children and Families, and the Delaware Region Health Ministries Network, just to name a few. She's been a busy lady. Vice President of Tau Eta, the International Nursing Society, local chapter to Chi Eta Phi, member of Delaware Nurses for Life. LaVaida?
Thank you all very much for having me. I feel very much almost like a novice in that I've been in and out of the pro-life movement. But I say my ministry covers the spectrum of life, from the womb to the tomb. And my background, my expertise is in gerontology. But for the last 20 or so years, I have been involved in the community and working with community groups, civic associations, grassroots organizations to bring about health in our community. And while, like Mrs. Donofrio, I'm not bringing you any statistics, and I'm not an expert on any one thing except for the care of the elderly. But I do know what I am bringing you today is the lived experience. And I really appreciate Bess inviting me to this conference, and also for recognizing Darrell Sims, who was a member of our ministry for Black Catholics. And so I just appreciate the opportunity to come and bring you a perspective of the African American woman and being Black and Catholic. I saw an editorial some time ago in the newspaper that talked about the abortion rate in the minority community probably being so, having such aggressive advertisement because, like alcohol and cigarettes, that we are more prone to be marketed in the Black community. And, you know, there is some truth to that. There's a lot of truth to that. And there's been any number of allegations about the market in the African American community and how the abortion industry would target that. And I don't miss them. I don't take that lightly. But I believe as a society that we have not adequately confronted the whole issue of racism in America. That is the big elephant in the room. And to me, that is something much bigger than I could put my hands around. Bess gave me some information, and I saw a video, a couple of videos, one called Blood Money, the other is Ma'afa 21. which points a finger at our society. And the very fact that we have not confronted that elephant in the room, and until we do, I think things will go on. There'll be no change. We need to look at what we as a society will put up, what we tolerate. And until we do, that things will go on as the same. But what I can wrap my hands around is the disparities in health care. I think it's unfortunate that the real issue on abortion happens to be just like everything else, about poverty. It's about education, and I think that's something that each and every one of us in this room can do something about. We don't often want to talk about things that are uncomfortable. And in our community, we don't really talk about abortion. We don't bring up the issue of sex and sit down with our kids and have that heart-to-heart talk. We wait for our teachers in schools or someone else. Our kids are getting information from one another. And I was just so glad to see Ms. Rehoboth Beach here today speaking out. I think the one with the teen pregnancy rate, I think the one thing that will affect that population is teens talking to teens. That we as adults, it goes in one ear and out the other. But also, just to broach the subject, people have no qualms about talking about condoms. We see it on television. You can't turn on the television without a commercial. Grown people in bathtubs talking about Viagra and Cialis. But can we talk about what's killing us as a society? No, we don't. When did we start to do that? I have to relate a situation when my daughter was young, about 3 or 4 years old. I had taken her down to the Brandywine Zoo. And we were standing there watching the animals, and we went over to the old lion and lioness cage there. And it was spring. Birds and bees were chirping. I guess the lion took his clue from them and got busy. And my daughter looked at me, and by that time, there was quite a crowd of young mothers and fathers with their children. And it was quite unexpected that the old lion decided to be frisky. And my daughter asked me what they were doing. And every eye turned towards me. What you gonna say? So I told her frankly, they're mating. There'll be a little baby lion someday because they're mating. And you could hear an audible, that wasn't so bad. But when did the conversation begin? And then throughout the growing years of raising my daughters, we had talks. Things came up on television. Things came up in books that opened up the conversation so that we could have that talk. But so many teenagers today, we have babies who are having babies. But thank God that they're bringing them into the world. My challenge is to keep them from getting pregnant in the first place. And so I think about the disparities in healthcare. Why no one wants an unintended pregnancy to get pregnant when they're young and have other plans for their lives. No one intends to do that purposely, except for maybe this group up in Massachusetts. But as a woman, as a nurse, and as a community activist, I live this out. I hear these kids, I hear older women. I'm fortunate enough to be in enough circles that I could go to and hear. I live in the city. I live in an urban setting. I hear what's going on. I hear the young men, the drugs and substance abuse that is prolific in the community. They're young lions. They have contests with who has the most kids. My 15-year-old grandson has a classmate, a best friend, with 2 kids at 17. Proud. Is he involved in their lives? No. How can he be? He can't even raise them himself. So, what I see as a problem in this abortion issue is the lack of education. It's the poverty. It's what we as a society are allowing on our television sets to come in our homes, even without our permission. When you ask a young mother, why would you want to have an abortion? You talk about the health risks. It's not a healthy choice for African American women. It's not a healthy choice for any woman. You heard that. Breast cancer, infection, depression. What we're dealing with, a spiritual disease. So when we talk and ask, well, why would you consider an abortion? And a lot of times it's a young person who's living at home. My mother can't take care of me. How's she going to take care of another baby? And of course I say, well, she's not supposed to be taking care of another baby. You had it. You're supposed to be taking care of the baby. I can't. So let's think about what you can do other than have that abortion. They said, well, look at the number of babies that are in the waiting for adoption. And I heard this. I don't want my baby to grow up knowing that their mother and father didn't want them, and either does anyone else. That's hard. That's hard to come back with a response for. But it's a certain fact that young folks are feeling. We know that across the board, African Americans usually have more or worse sexual and reproductive health outcomes than people of any other racial group. And back in 1994, when the big article came out in the news journal about the number of infant mortality deaths in the African American community, was when I decided to get involved and start trying to make some difference in the community. We're having a hard time keeping alive those babies that are born.